Florida Maki, sometimes I really enjoy your channel, but other times I think you have just lost it. All this crazy Antarctica talk, it's got to stop. I mean, how do you expect anyone to ever take you seriously talking about dragons, great winged creatures, and artist illustrations of Antarctica as some place that was once inhabited? That couldn't possibly have been. Science has already established that. You should just move on. There are no aliens. The pictures that you've taken are just apophenia and pareidolia. And oh, by the way, for those folks who believe in that, I have a real special surprise for you at the end of this video. Stay tuned. But also, trying to connect this to TV series like Stargate Atlantis and make allegation that there are these giant frozen tunnels. I mean, even though that science says they're down there and that they're habitable and warm and they found DNA of things they can't identify, all that I'm sure is going to be explained away just as simple microbes or mistakes. There's no way any of it's real. Even recently, you've been talking about this series called Defiance. I mean, it was a really crazy series at the time, and they canceled it. I mean, what relevance could it possibly have to surviving disaster? There's so many more things more important to talk about, Florida Maki. Why don't you talk about that? Interesting story from Defiance, by the way. The series leads off with two characters, Arissa on the left and her pal Nolan, and they're heading for the sunny beaches of Antarctica. Now, I'm sure a lot of people looked at that and go, oh, brother, boy, they've really gone off the deep end this time. Well, strangely enough, only a year or two after the series was canceled, science came out and reported that they had indeed found remnants of an ancient, steamy, swampy rainforest in Antarctica. Now, of course, they had to make it be 85 bazillion years ago so that nobody thought anything of it. But funny story, Washington Post. It's 70 degrees warmer than normal in eastern Antarctica. Scientists are flabbergasted. I thought scientists couldn't be flabbergasted. They already knew everything. This event is completely unprecedented and upended our expectations. Whenever you hear the term or terms like upended our expectations, you can basically translate that to say that, and it completely disproved every possible theory we ever had before. That's exactly what they're saying. Upended our expectations about the Antarctic climate system. One, still calling himself an expert, said. This is a heat map from Antarctica. The giant red blob with all the heat. Yeah, Antarctica. And this isn't some made-for-TV movie. This is reality right now. 3 straight days. I'm sure some of you saw this over at BP Earthwatch. I want to give credit where credit's due. That's where I saw this. And I remember seeing the headline flash through, and I was scrolling. I'm like, oh, that's got to be garbage. And sure enough, Washington Post is reporting this. The coldest location on the planet has experienced an episode of warm weather this week, unlike any ever observed, with temperatures over the eastern Antarctic ice sheet soaring 50 to 90 degrees above normal. 5 to 9 degrees? 15 to 19 degrees? No, 50 to 90 degrees above normal. See, they're setting everybody up for something. They're setting everybody up for something. There's this giant atmospheric river that is dumping a ton of, not snow, rain on Antarctica. And if you want to get rid of a snowpack really fast, dump a bunch of really warm water on it and then add wind and watch how fast it goes away. You see, some people try to debunk what they're saying. It's like, well, it's above normal, but it's still below freezing, so it's not going to cause any melting. Absolutely incorrect. There is a giant atmospheric river pounding Antarctica right now. And what this says to me, what this means to me is simple. The rate at which this particular part of the world can go from frozen to habitable is a lot faster than what they thought. And when that ice sheet, that major eastern ice sheet finally cracks and billions of tons of warm, fresh water start running through it, it's game over. Nobody's got to worry about boring through 2 miles of ice. They're just going to be able to go right down and take a look. And that's when the world is really, really going to change. Forget about exploring other planets. We have a continent larger than Europe that heretofore has been somewhat inaccessible, but now we're going to go learn things, and the more they learn down there, the more they're going to realize they don't know everything they thought they knew. Now, as promised, I'm sure some of you out there, some of my naysayers, they love to watch this stuff just to try to debunk and disprove me. This was a collage of pictures that I had put together of different things that I had found that I thought were clearer to see than many others. So I decided one day to go take a look and see what Google image search would say. That's the part of Google where you can go take a picture you already have and you can upload it to Google and they'll tell you what they think it is. Well, I decided over here on the left, there were a couple of what looked like the bust of world leaders or commanders or something. I thought I would start with those. Here's the first one. Personification Erebus of darkness. Now, I'm sure that's because a lot of the picture is darkened, but all the visually similar images, almost all of them are faces. Oh, but it gets better. Where is, by the way, Erebus? That's right, Antarctica. So this thing, this picture, that was supposedly just pareidolia, apophenia, even Google Images said that it's visually similar to faces. Didn't call it apophenia, didn't say it was a strange, weird, cloudy formation. But it gets even better. It gets even better. I took a little bit better screenshot and kind of adjusted the light a little bit. And I started doing some research. This particular location, and I'll give you it down in the description, is near a place called the El Sayed Glacier. Now, El Sayed means the master, or the leader, or the commander. But it gets even better than that. The El Sayed dynasty was put in place by a man named Emir Timur. This is Emir Timur, widely regarded as one of the greatest military leaders that ever lived. Now, I've put this picture up over here next to some different images of Emir Timur. Now, in these images, these reconstructions, his beard isn't as long as the picture here. But if you look very closely, in this particular image, it seems as if the bust is wearing some type of a helmet with a point at the top right here. You can see that in the recreation here. This helmet that has a point at the top, and you can also see it here. Or you can just Google it for yourself, Emir, E-M-I-R, Timur. I believe it's T-E-M-U-R. And you can read all about him and how closely this image looks to a bust of Emir Timur. Now, Emir Timur lived during the 1400s. Who knows how far that dynasty got on the globe? Let's see if I still have this brought up. I do. I'll pan this out here just to show you where it is in relation to everything else. It is at about 9 o'clock. And it's one of the strangest areas I have ever looked at in Antarctica. There are things all over here that just do not make any sense. It looks like there's some type of a collapsed region down here. Right next to this particular I guess we'll just call it a location for now, bust, image of a man, whatever it is. There's some type of a platform. I don't know if this thing is laying on its side, whether it's collapsed, or whether this thing is part. I just am not sure. But I know one thing's for sure, that this is not just wind, ice, rock, and snow. Even if you dismiss this part of my argument right here, please explain what this is up here. Because you could look at the image like this, and it would still be damn strange. I mean, there's really no angle you can look at this where you don't see something that just is way out of place. Same thing over here. Way too many sharp corners, way too many edges. And of course, these are all over the place. 2 more giant cave entrances. Smaller one and a larger one. But once again, this is the El Sayed Glacier that's starting to melt, and melt in a way that even quote-unquote accepted science is admitting they don't have an explanation for. And that's the key here. Even those who call themselves experts are now saying our entire understanding of the Antarctic climate system is completely wrong. That's a big thing for these guys to say. That's how radical the shift is down there. And they are going into the southern hemisphere, is going into its wintertime. As we enter summer here in the northern hemisphere, it's supposed to be getting colder down there. And it is to some extent. But not nearly as cold. Temperatures so warm, they've never been recorded ever all across the entire continent. Now just imagine if that's the case now, what's the case going to be next winter for us, summer for them? In 5 years, 10 years, there might not be a time when you can't go to Antarctica. You may be able to fly there year round, and in 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, you could see all sorts of, well, I suppose that would be speculation, wouldn't it? So I guess I'll leave it there. But strangely enough, there was a series that called this, and called it in spades, Defiance. 3 seasons, and there was quite a bit of hokey stuff in it, but they got this part right. I'll leave it there. God bless, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.